Hey guys, Katie here, and today's video is helping Jama celebrate reaching 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. I am joining the creative design team for probably a 2-week long collaboration, and I am pulling up the rear on this one.
Okay, here is a look at the photo I am going to use. Now, this is a little bit different from Jama's layout. She is documenting meeting one of their favorite baseball players, but I'm going to use this photo of my husband and I, or me and my husband, at a wedding of a coworker a couple of years ago. I love him in peach. And then also I was reminded of the colors in this card kit. So here's a look at what the cards look like. You've got a couple of standard size cards, and then you've got a slimline, but it's kind of like a baby slimline. So I have quite a few leftover pieces. This card kit comes with multiple languages. So all of these I'm not going to use on cards. So I thought I might try to use them as little focal pieces, and then I'll hide the letters with embellishments. So I've got that. I may try to use the envelopes. I'm not really sure yet. And then I have this piece of cardstock that my daughter and I did. I want to say this was during COVID, but this is the shaving cream technique. Not sure if you're familiar with that. I will try to find that video and actually add it to a small portion of the process of this one so you can see how that works. But I just think that that yellow and this kind of peach color just go really well with this photo. So I'm going to try to use that as well. I may bring in some stamps or some ribbon. You never know with me, and I probably won't do that till the end if you are familiar with how I work. So I'm going to clear this off, get some things cut. Otherwise, this layout should come together pretty quickly.
Okay, so I did find the video of doing the shaving cream technique. I am working on my glass board, and you are just going to put some shaving cream on your work surface and then grab some reinkers. Now, again, this video was done several years ago. These are close to my heart reinkers and no longer available. But we have papaya, we have saffron, and then that one's going to kind of go in the middle. And then at the very bottom, I am going to add the last color. Now, I am using a palette knife just to kind of work those colors in. And as you could tell by the actual piece of cardstock I did, some of those are mixed together. Now, I am just taking white cardstock. I didn't find that just plain cardstock worked too much with this technique, but if you have some watercolor cardstock or something thicker, you could definitely do that. So you turn your cardstock over onto the shaving cream, and then after that's done, you can just remove the shaving cream. I decided to put it back into my pile, and you can see what beautiful patterns that creates. Now you can take a paper towel, wipe off the rest, but other than that, it is just smooth to the touch, and you can see that lovely marbled pattern. So I'm going to create this one. I believe this is the one that I used in the video, and do the same thing. Turn it over and then scrape off that excess shaving cream and just put it back into the pile. I did use the rest of these panels on cards. I don't know if I ever even posted this to Instagram or any of my socials, but it's such a fun technique. I encourage you to try it. Again, just use a cleanable work surface. You can find my glass board linked down below.
Okay, so I've pulled out my base page. I am going to go with White Daisy. And then I started going through these card bases, the cards that I've already made, trying to pick out either what I could use from the card base itself or the elements. And so I didn't want to, because the goal here is to still have another card to make. So this kit makes 9. I've already made 3. I would love to make 8 and then just use one card base for this layout. So this one is pretty singular. I would only have, one cluster of flowers. So that one was almost immediately out. This one I love, but this is probably one of my favorites. And even though I could cut it in half, using a whole lot of stuff. Plus, This had more green in it, whereas my piece that I want to use here has, you know, more of the pool party, not kind of like that olive green. So kind of nixed that one. And then I decided on this one for a couple of reasons. When I pulled out the base, I noticed that that was going to be really easy to cut in half. Plus, it doesn't have a whole lot of green. You can see here, I can trim these off of the die cuts, and these are just kind of subtle. So I'm going to go with this one. And then I've also pulled out the die cuts. Like I said, I've only made 3 of the cards, so I still have 2 full sheets of die cuts. So I'm just going to punch out the die cuts that go with this card base. And so we've got these 2. And then all these can be used later to make more of those pretty cards. So I cut the base, so now I have the back of the base, and then I have these 2 pieces. And then I also pulled one of the sentiments, and I am going to use the back side. So keep that in mind when you are working with one of Stampin' Up's kits that has the multiple languages. Don't throw these away, because not only could you do a thank you card or a congratulation card with all of those languages, you know, just kind of running down the card front, but you can also turn it over and use the back. So in Jama's layout, she did some mixed media. I am not. I think this is going to be pretty bold. So I may bring in some background stamps, but for the most part, I am just going to leave this as is. Now I am going to trim this down right quick. Okay, so I've trimmed this to 1 inch, and then I've pulled out a couple of other papers. This one is from the gold Mercury Vellum. I love, love, love this one. And then this one is from the Storybook Life. It's a little bit darker than, you know, these colors that I'm going to use, but I think it blends in these 2 pieces perfectly, which is what we need, because we need to make it look really cohesive. So I've already trimmed the little bitty pieces that will go off to the side. And then once I am ready to do my photo mat, I've already trimmed a white photo mat because that's what I prefer. But once I'm ready to layer up my photo mats like Jama did, I'll trim those other pieces. So I'm just going to go ahead and get these ready to lay down. I'm going to start with the vellum, and it's going to go just flush with this left edge. And I've cut it a little bit larger than the marbled shaving cream piece. And then this little piece is going to go flush right here. Looks like I need to trim that a little bit. If you are new to scrapbooking, just know that if you have a lot of pieces that overhang or, you know, don't all match up, that has nothing to do with you. It just has to do with the various manufacturers, and even within a manufacturer, it just has to do with how those pieces are cut. Now, if you're trimming your own paper, that's usually because you are working with a trimmer that has a blade that either allows it to move ever so slightly. And then also there's a difference with trimming with the paper on the line and then actually kind of before the line. So there is that left piece. I'm loving that little kind of peekaboo of that gold behind there. Okay, so now we kind of need to work on the focal piece, which is going to be around my photo. So I've got this part of the card base that's cut in half, and then I've got these little pieces right here. Now I am going to actually use the little mini dimensional elements. In the kit, you get some that come with the kit, but I'm just going to use the ones that I have right here on my desk. And I am just going to adhere these down to the larger parts of this little flower swag. And then I kind of came up with an idea to make these greens match just a little bit more with my shaving cream paper. So we are going to see if that works. I think it will. I tried it on a little scratch piece of some pattern paper, some DSP that is the same color. That way I didn't really ruin anything, so to speak. It's going to come close enough. So I'm almost finished with these. So we've got this, and this is the only one that has kind of this green. I think for right now I'm going to trim those off like I told you. So we have these. Now for this, I have two of our Stampin' Right markers. So I have one in Summer Splash and then one in Shy Shamrock. I am going to use Summer Splash, and I am just going to not really color all the way, but just kind of add some color in here. Now, there may be a better alternative. If you have a lot of the Stampin' Up! Markers, there may be a better alternative to this. I just don't. I don't have a lot of the colors yet. It's not bad. I think once you get it all in together, it'll look a little better. And then I'm going to wait until these are in place, and I'm probably going to use this little bullet tip to do the smaller leaves. Okay, so now we are going to adhere these down. I have brought this out just so I can kind of see which one goes with which. So this is that top part. I can tell by these two pieces right here. And then we have this one and we have this one. So it appears this one goes with this, and then this one goes with this. Got those adhered down. Not really liking my little leaves here, but let's see how it works. I have also decided to fussy cut. I thought about bringing out the fancy border dies, but sometimes it's just easier to fussy cut. I don't mind fussy cutting. It's just I have arthritis in my hands, so sometimes I just can't do a lot. But this is pretty large. It's not a whole lot of detail, or the way I'm doing it. You could go in and out of these flowers and make it a whole lot more detailed. But if you are new around here, that is not my MO. My MO is to get in and out. In fact, we are getting ready to leave for Dallas again. Basically, we go to Dallas every weekend for my son's basketball. And I took the day off to get this video done. I'm a little bit late in posting, but I definitely wanted to celebrate Jama. But we've just had some things. I work outside the home. We've had some things at work going on. Our air conditioner has been broken with all the lights here in my scrapbook room. It gets pretty hot, and in Texas, we're already reaching, mid 90s. So anyways, it is getting hot already, but we have our air conditioner fixed. I had some dental work done. So this is the first time I've been in my scrapbook room for a while. And so I wanted to get this done before we leave this weekend. So I have put some 3D foam tape on the back of here. That not only is going to add dimension when I actually adhere it down, but that's going to allow me to kind of play with some pieces before I actually commit to them. So I'm wanting these to go right here. Now in Jama's example, she had some to the bottom right, the top left, and kind of down here. I just think I'm going to kind of frame this. Plus, I'm going to add some photo mats. We've got this going. Still have this, and then I still have these to work with. While I'm thinking, you guys know that I like to just kind of move on to what I know. And so I know my photo mat. So I've cut these, and then I'm going to gut them because not very much is going to show. So I'm going to gut at 3/4 of an inch. It's much like I gut my layout bases. if you have a trimmer that has a left side, now mine's upside down because that's just the way I work. But if you have a trimmer that does the left side, and if you have a trimmer where you can start your blade at a particular spot, this works perfectly with that kind of trimmer. So I've started my blade at 3/4 of an inch. I've also lined my paper up at 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to cut up to 7. Now this is 7 3/4, so that kind of makes it easy. And then I'm going to flip my DSP around, and I am going to find the 5 because it's by 5 3/4, and then I'm going to cut down to 3/4 and then lift my blade, rotate, line it up, 3/4 up to 7, rotate, line it up, and then 5 down to 3/4. And then that way I can save this piece for later, because I haven't even done the scrapbooking workshop that goes with Storybook. So I'm going to do the same thing with the vellum. Now these measurements are a little bit different, but it's the same process. For the marbled piece, I'm really not sure, but I can probably guess that shaving cream is not acid free. Now, even though this has been done, I did look up and I made that video in 2023. So it's been a while, but that still doesn't mean that there's not some acid trapped in here. There are some sprays that you can purchase. A lot of people do it with newspaper, but this is just kind of raw. So I'm trying to keep this away from my photo, and that is going to be why you're not seeing that as part of the photo mat. And I will find another place to put this because I don't want it just there. Again, it's all about making your layout seem cohesive. And then we are going to get these photo mats adhered down. Now I am going to center just on the white part. I am going to, I think, keep it kind of top. That way my title can go at the bottom. Jama's did the same. Okay, so I am loving that peak of gold behind there because it matches my watch face. And then also, you know, these little pieces have that gold in there. Hopefully you can see that. Now I haven't adhered the photo down yet, but it does have 3D foam tape on it that's going to allow me to kind of tuck these behind. So we've got that, and then we have this one. I am really not digging these, so I am going to cut those off, and then that way I still have the center one, and then that one that I've already put down still has the center one. So we've got that. But then I also thought, you know what I might do is take this, and I have this punch. I think I'm going to punch some of these. I wanted to capture the green, but I also kind of want to capture other ones too. So I think I can probably tuck some in here and hide the fact that we just chopped a bunch of stuff off. For this, I am going to just trim right down that, and I'm going to trim right down that. Okay, I've adhered all the little bits and pieces down, so it is time to adhere my photo. So I've just taken off the backing of the 3D foam tape. Just going to get that secured down. Now I use a whole lot of 3D foam tape. This will be behind, you know, a memory protector. So it's not like a card where someone's going to push on it, it's just going to go down. I just prefer to use a lot. I am going to add some embellishments. I have some twisted gold thread. I already have one bow tied, so let's just stick with that. This tends to come undone for me, so I like to tie a pretty large bow, like with large loops. No matter how much I tighten it. So then I like to then tie a knot in the bow. Next, you're just going to take some sort of round object, and if you'll twist those tails around it, it kind of adds a little bit of fluidity instead of just straight. And then the other thing I'm going to use is I'm going to use the brass butterflies. I love those, and I think I'm usually not a butterfly person, but I think because of all the flowers, it's gonna do really well. So the brass butterflies and then these low profile dots. I love that both of them are gonna go perfect with this. For my title, I was contemplating stamping it or using the mini alphabet die. One thing I love about the mini alphabet die is that you can see here that it punches all the letters. So chances are I already have Dreamy in here without having to bring out my die cut machine. So that's what I'm going to look for first before cutting any more. And instead of dream come true, I'm just going to put dreamy. I can't remember what layout I made with this to even remember if I have a D. I didn't find a D, but now that I kind of have it laid out, I don't even think the font doesn't really fit this layout. And then the color is just a little bit bold and it's not as big as I want it. So back to the drawing board. I just remembered that I have a box full of brand new stuff that debuts Tuesday, May 6th. And one of them is Sweet Blooms. And I purchased this mainly because of these larger words that also have die cuts. So there is this word lovely. And I am going to die cut that out of gold. Now, one thing I love about this die cut, I didn't actually use this feature, but it has the word, which is what I decided to use, and then it also has kind of a larger one, kind of an offset that you could mat. Now I did keep with the vellum look for the softness, and I pulled out a couple of stamp sets. I like this one, My Heart Loves Your Heart, but then I also love This Life. So I think I'm going to actually make it Love This Lovely Life. And we are going to love this lovely life. So there are a couple of ways to mask. I am just going to add a post-it note right here. And I'm going to use Close to My Heart Peach. And then also when I'm inking it up, I'm trying not to put life onto the ink pad. You can also cut your stamps. But this one is really easy to mask. So love this. And then I am going to ink up life. So lovely is going to go there. Let's move my post-it note over. We're going to go right there. I got some liquid adhesive on the back of here, and I am just going to lay this down. Kind of centering it between the stamped letters, but then also kind of trying to keep the same spacing between the bottom of the photo and the bottom of the layout. Okay, so we are done with that. I did add this little heart using the Meant to Be stamp. I felt like it just kind of balanced this out since I'm kind of way over here on this one. I will add the date, and then I'll just add some simple journaling under here. But I love all the gold touches, not only in those little card pieces, but also in the butterflies and the low profile dots, and then of course that vellum. I will leave all the products that I used linked down below. Don't forget that if you are watching over the weekend, if you are signed up for Stampin' Rewards on my website, you will earn double rewards. And then don't forget that this die cut and stamp set that I used will be available May 6th. So that's Tuesday. It's called Sweet Blooms. I'll leave it listed down below, but it won't actually be a link until we go live with that catalog. I'll also leave a link to the playlist that you can go check out for Jama's 20,000 subscriber celebration. Not only are the CDT girls playing along, but she's invited some of her crafty friends to also play along. So make sure you visit those videos and check those out. There may be 1 or 2 channels that you haven't subscribed to, so you may want to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend.